stewardship. Now, when I say stewardship, I mean money management,
Yeah.
learning about money management. Because when you gather information, you learn information about money. When you have money, money isn't, you detach, like doesn't become subjective, it becomes objective. You don't apply emotions to your money when the money is not in your hands or when it's out of your hands. And so when I say stewardship, it means learn about budgeting. Learn about whatever budgeting system works for you now. There's so many out there. And a lot of people will tell you, no, that doesn't work for me. Well, then create your own.
You create your own.
Look at these templates that are all over on the internet and make sure you create one that fits you and suits you.
Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to another episode of Black Wealth Connect. I am your host Fabrice Ominko, and today I have a very special guest with me. Somebody that we've built rapport with over on the phone. Just in terms of like her passion for financial literacy around helping the African community, which I've found to be very inspiring because we need more leaders like that within our community that are doing those things, that are helping the youth, because that's where a lot of the that's where we can change a lot of things. When you're younger, if you get yourself into a good routine, then you're able to then take those same tools as you continue to grow up. So I love what my guest is doing, and there's so much we're gonna get into because she specializes in a lot of things. So without any further ado, I want to introduce Ryder Antwi. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. First of all, I just want to say thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. Like for you coming all the way from a very long way. We won't talk about the area, but obviously, you've had to sacrifice your time. Completely understand, and I do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. So first of all, to kick it off, congratulations, because prior to this, you actually just bought a car. And the reason why we're going to kick off the podcast like this is because I think it's really cool, because the fact that it was very spontaneous how this happened, and I think it's a good outcome for you, and you're able to obviously get here. And that's amazing.
Been hiding it from my people for like 3 weeks.
Oh, have you? Oh, God.
Everyone keeps asking, right, when is a new car? I'm like, I don't know.
Okay, and they don't realize today this person.
They don't even know.
Oh, they don't even know. You know what? But you know what? We're not going to release this episode until you tell them. And then when it comes up, it's going to be it's going to be natural. So don't worry about that. What I want to start off with is obviously, you do work as a financial advisor support.
Yes.
You support financial advisors. And also there's so many things that you've done in terms of like winning Miss Sahara, and there's so many things we're going to dive into. But just to kick it off, I just want to know just a little bit about your upbringing, because originally you have been in Australia for not as long as what I thought you have. Like, are you able to just tell us a little bit about your upbringing and where you're originally from?
So I was originally born in Ghana, and we came to Australia when I was 11. So basically my early childhood and education was all done in Ghana before we came here. And so we came here, I was supposed to actually start high school in Ghana. So when we came here, my dad was like, to get you accustomed to how the culture is and everything, maybe you should like go back to year 6 rather than go straight into high school. So I did year 6 over again in high school in Bankstown Public School, and then from there I went to Sir Joseph Banks High School. And honestly, my teachers, they were honestly to this day, they are my biggest supporters, and they are basically the foundation to which I have come this far.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. So what were some of the things that they were able to kind of, I know that obviously the school system, you learned so much, but why were they specifically so important to your life? Like what
they were very understanding in the sense that I had a teacher who was I think he was from Kenya, I'm not sure, but he was the one that actually was like, Ryder, do you have your citizenship yet? I was in year 10 then. And he's like, well, if you don't have citizenship when you go to uni, you're gonna have HEX. I didn't know about all that stuff, and so he was like, right, he was a human rights lawyer actually. So he's like, here, this is where you have to go. This is what you have to do to get your citizenship. Pay for it, and then by the time you get to uni, you have it by then because you have to wait 4 years. So when you get there, you won't have to pay for uni and all that. So honestly, that was the first thing one of my teachers did that for me.
Yeah.
Another thing was like, they were very encouraging in the sense that they basically pushed me into all leadership works. I was the child there in year 9. I was very quiet, hiding in the libraries, didn't want to talk to nobody because I've been told not to make friends.
Yeah, bro.
So it was like, just like, I shut everybody off. But then in year 10, I was like, I mean, I'm going to leave now. So, like, I can't do whatever I want.
Yeah, gotcha.
And so they were like, oh, okay, cool. So they literally chucked me into leadership opportunities like left, right, and center. So one was the Helmsman Project that I worked with. So they basically work with kids in year 10, and they will take them on a big boat. So the boat that we went on was the James Craig, and it's like a big Pirate of the Caribbean ship. And then we had other girls from other schools. Now I was raised with boys, so that was like the first time I had to be stuck with girls.
Women,
so I was like, ooh. That was a lot of like, that was an epiphany moment to be very. I saw like girly versions. I'm like, okay, cool. This is something I can, do for myself. And then, so I did that. And then actually, after I was in my first year of uni, I went back to work for them. And I did a lot of like leadership programs for kids. I went back to high schools teaching leadership development for kids, especially. So the Helmsman Project specialized in like helping young kids realize their potential.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And so I was so much passionate about it because it helped me realize that honestly there's no bounds to what I can do.
Of course, yeah.
And so I wanted to be able to pay that forward into other kids. And so I got to work with them. So I was like, yes.
So you were still at school during this time you were doing this, or this is when you graduated?
This was after I graduated high school and
then
was in first year. I went back to them to work with them.
Yeah, that's excellent.
And also there was another program, and this one was my principal. Now my principal was scary.
Oh really? Male or female?
Male.
Oh, male. Okay.
His face was very like gruff.
Okay,
like,
right.
Like no smile.
Yeah. Oh, we've had some bad principals. Don't worry, but yeah.
Honestly, but like they were very lenient with me in the sense that they actually like, right, we're gonna put you in a leadership program. That's it. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. So that's how I was just like, they didn't give me, it's not like they didn't give me the option to say no.
Yeah.
It's like they saw something, they really wanted to flourish it. Beautiful. So they were like, we're going to put her in it, even though she doesn't see it in herself yet.
Man, that is so touching because I feel like there are people in this world that see certain things in people and they're able to bring the best out of them. Like they probably saw that, you had potential to be a leader, because sometimes it's not about like, sometimes, like, you said that you're a quiet person, but sometimes it's not about, like, whether you're quiet or loud, but sometimes there's just something about you that people can just, I don't know what it is, they're able to just see in you and kind of, but that's really good that they were able to kind of give you those, to put you in those opportunities where then you're able to practice becoming a leader and things like that. What are some of the things you taught, like, what were some of the things that you were taught, like, in the process of you, starting to become almost like your own leader? Because obviously you were a shy person, so that would have really been like, it would have been like, like a step outside of your comfort zone. Like,
so I guess one of the things I learned was like, just get comfortable with who you are. And that was one of the things I didn't realize that I was not. Because up until even after high school, having gone through the Helmsman Project, when I started working for them, I didn't realize how much I challenged my sexuality, like my gender.
Yeah. Okay.
I was raised by boys, with boys, so I was very much like a tomboy, and I didn't really care for all the feminine stuff that a lot of girls had, and so it's like at that point it helped me learn to be more comfortable in my femininity, and so I had to be like embrace that. That was one of the things I had to embrace. Another thing was the potential. That was like the biggest one for me. Like knowing that I really have no bounds to what I can do. So it's like I shouldn't limit myself just because other people say that I can't do it. Even if I can't do it, I can learn to do it.
Exactly.
So that was the thing. It's like, yes, I may not be talented, but I can learn.
You can learn how to do it. Yeah. And that's like the same for everything in life. Like, let's keep it real. Like, we even when you go for a job interview or, they say, oh, we need people with experience. But like if somebody's hungry enough to learn, sometimes that beats experience too. Like, I'm not saying experience is not good, but like somebody has the willingness to learn can also, produce the same kind of result and then even probably excel after they learn,
Yeah.
So opportunity is one of the biggest things. Like, you have to give people opportunity, and I feel like that's what they've done to you.
Honestly, when I tell you the job I got now, I'm doing right now, that's how I got it. The fact that I'm curious to learn. Rather than, they actually had an experienced person. The fact that I was the person who walked in the room with a book and a pen and paper and I told them, I do not know anything about this. And this job is beyond me.
Yeah.
But then I'm willing to put myself here and actually learn and work it through. Yeah. And they were like, yeah, we want you. So I was like, cool, thanks.
There you go. That's the confidence too, they saw the confidence in you and stuff like that. Now that's excellent. So, So obviously coming from Ghana, you know, you've gone through, you know, you went to school here, you graduated year 12, everything, yeah?
Yeah.
And then after that, so you went back into school. How was it like with the experience, like teaching people how to become leaders after you learned? What was that process like? That would have been challenging, or what was it? Oh.
It's like a lot of, that's the thing about teachers. Teachers are amazing.
Oh, they are, yeah.
It's like,
we don't give them enough credit.
no, we
yeah,
don't.
yeah.
It's like you see so much potential in somebody, but you can't instill that belief in them when you see it.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I had to learn. Like, you may want something for somebody for so much, but unless they want it for themselves, they will never actually work on it or action it.
That is the best. Yeah.
And that was one of the things I learned. It's like, as much as I saw potential in all of these girls that were coming in the program and seeing there's so much potential, is the fact that they didn't realize how much impactful the program would be to them in a later year. Because I didn't realize the impact of the program up until I started like reflecting back on, like, had I not done this program, that was the first leadership thing I actually got into. And then I went to actually apply for SRC for myself throughout high school, and I did get leadership opportunities. And I literally, like, even though I didn't get like the school captain, I was literally like, I don't want to, this is not being bragging or anything.
No, there's no bragging. No. Talk. It's fine. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Like, I felt like I became the point where, like, I was the base for everybody to fall back on. If nobody did the work, I'll get the work done, and then they can just take it on, and I wouldn't mind. Even though, like, yeah, at some point I did have a thing about making sure I had the credit for my work.
Yeah.
But I realized that even though at that point, sometimes it was just good to let them know that, right, I can set the foundation and they can just run with it.
And they can run with it. And that's setting expectations for yourself too.
Exactly.
Like, you always had high expectations, like, you know, and obviously, like, we both said that, you know, you have OCD, I have OCD, so like it makes it even 10 times worse when you're trying to,
You can't tell people to do exactly what you want them to do.
Exactly, unless you're doing it, you know, and you feel like you're the only one that can do the job better than anyone else, but it's a double-edged sword.
But the thing is that one of my teachers said this to me. It was like, I remember doing that, like, sorry, it was a Valentine's Day thing, and I didn't ask for permission. They told me, you're a leader now, you can do whatever you want. So I was like, okay, that was my green light to do whatever I want.
Whatever you want. So you ran with it. Oh, you didn't look back.
No.
Ryder, and your name is Ryder too, so you know you wriggle away. Yeah.
I did posters, started posting them around the school. Like, we doing a fundraiser for Valentine's Day, so like pay. And then my principal came and was like, Ryder, you know, you need to ask for permission before you do these things. I'm like, oh, really? Well, people know now, so.
Yeah, people know it's too late now, you know.
And then they racked up a lot of like funds from it. And my teacher was like, so during that whole thing, like, I did all that minimal work for it. And so afterwards, everybody just jumped on. All the other leaders jumped on. They were selling the flowers, counting the money, and I just sat down. I'm like, I've done my part.
You've done your part, yeah.
And then the teacher's like, Ryder, you did this. I'm like, no.
But you know what's good about what you've been able to achieve too? So it's mad because, like, obviously you learning those skills, being able, and what I really like is that you were able to be given that opportunity, but also give back to people, because almost like I feel like everybody in life has to find their purpose. I'm really big on purpose, you know, like you have to find out what you want to do, or, you know, you always need to give back in some way. And the fact that somebody gave you that opportunity, then you gave back, that's really shows you, you know, the type of person you are. But at the same time too, like, do you feel like those same tools that you've learned when you were at school, do you feel like you're still using them up until now, like in your everyday life and the way you manage things?
Honestly, I tell you, after high school, after all of that, it builds up. It doesn't stay stagnant. And when you just don't allow yourself to grow with it or grow in it, you basically become stagnant. And like, when you see so much growth and development in yourself, you do realize when you are becoming stagnant and you want to push more. And so I'll say, yes, I do use the skills that I learned in high school. However, it's at a point where if I were to think that I'll be where I am right now when I was 17 years old, I'll be lying, because I have exceeded my expectations of myself.
Congratulations. That's really good.
Yeah. And it's like, because of that, it's like, okay, maybe what the expectation I set myself was way too low. Maybe I should make it even higher. So that's where it is at the point. So it's like, I've surpassed the skills I thought I had.
And sky's the limit, like you said before, like, you know, because we're the ones that create our own barriers for ourselves. Like, you know, when we have these boundaries, like, you know, it makes it 10 times harder. So we need to be able to make sure that we set ourselves up with high expectations, so that way we're able to elevate,
Exactly.
you know, and get to those places. Because if we have low expectations, especially within the African community, like I hate to say it, but it's just, you know, sometimes when we speak to people, or, you know, we have this, like, even for what you're doing, for example, you know, you there's times where people might say things like, look, you're not able to get there. But, you know, these are the type of things that we need to make more comfortable, and realize that, you know, we all have the same 24 hours. We all have the same opportunities, the same tools. We need to just make sure that we be, you know, productive about it.
Yes.
So it's very important. But, okay, so going on to, so your journey growing up and everything, what was your, like, family dynamic? So you're raised with just boys? How many brothers have you got?
I had 4.
Okay.
Now I have 3.
Okay. So okay. And so in terms of, like, just the family dynamic, so your boys raising you, how was it living with, like, just, you know, the boys? Was it just they were playing soccer? Like, what was it like? Was it just full on, or?
So it changes because of the cultural change that happened because we moved from Ghana to Australia.
And they're all here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So in Ghana, it was a lot more like there was family always around to take up what my mom didn't have capacity to in terms of with taking care of us.
Yeah.
And so that's when the mills came in, as in my uncles, as in my other uncles and my step cousins and stuff like that. They came in to, like, take care of me and stuff. And then also family friends, all of these ones came in. So they're all boys. They can't raise a girl. So I pick up the tendencies of it. And then coming here in Australia is like, okay, Australia was like, in Ghana we had a lot more freedom to be, like, there's so much freedom, like, because you trust that everybody around you is family. You can, like, literally everybody in the town that we lived in was family. I could go out from, like, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. and wouldn't even think about coming home. But then it's like, I have family around. Everywhere I go, it's like family. They know my family too. So it's like, even if I'm here, I don't have to call home because somebody has already told them, my grandma, that she's here. She's taken care of. And here became very isolated and encapsulated, like, where, like, we didn't have any family here. It was just my dad, my mom, and my brothers. Nobody else besides that. So when my mom is working, my dad is working, just me and my brothers again. So it's like, it became very, like, a bit lonely. Not lonely as in, like, lonely, but, like, isolated from everything that we were used to, compared to what we, like, the freedom we used to have, compared to the less freedom we have now, having to live in a country that we don't know anybody, and we're not also very used to the culture, and we're still learning the culture as well.
That must have been a big cultural shock for your parents, because, you know, and obviously you guys still speak English, like, in Ghana, but, like, just the culture, like, you know, like you talk about the freedom. So did you get that same experience where, like, in Ghana, like, you're very connected to the nature, like, in terms of you being able to walk around, do whatever it is, like, in terms of, like, plants, trees, like, there's so much more nature out there compared to when you come into the Western society where, you know, you just see big buildings all the time. Like, did you ever get that type of you know, cultural change, like that shock, or was Ghana quite?
I love this question, but it's like Ghana is very more central, not different from a Western country.
It's not Western.
It's not like, honestly, if I tell you, so, like, people will be like, oh, but you live from Africa, you should have seen, like, a snake or a lion, and they're like, no.
That's no. I don't even think that, you know, that's, we're African. We don't. That's not.
I haven't even seen one
what
myself.
You see on TV is not the reality of what Africa looks like. No.
And so
we got to change that perception.
And so in terms of the connectedness to nature, I wouldn't say nature, it's more like connectedness to family, understanding my heritage, my cultural background. It was that kind of connection that I had because I had my great-grandmother in the family. She was still very alive and kicking, and so she was, like, really, like, trying to instill all of the principles and, like cultural principles into my mind, at least, since I was a female child. And so it was mostly that kind of, like, connection that I had. And so coming here is more like the cutoff. And it's like I have to learn a new culture of how the Western people do things. Like, as a Ghanaian child, I can't speak to an adult in a certain way. I can't even greet an adult in a certain way. I can't be like, hi. I have to be like, if I'm gonna greet an African or an uncle, I have to, like, hold my hand to show respect. So it's like there were certain things I learned, and then I had to not unlearn, but, like, not apply, because I didn't see enough people to be able to apply with, or even, like, respond to teachers with, because, like, the kids were like, miss, and I'm waiting to be called on.
Yes, it was very.
It's like,
Damn.
You guys are being rude.
Yeah, and they're like, what? What are you talking
He's
about?
like, you were too.
Yeah, you're too nice. You know?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so things like that for sure. That would have been, that would have been very different for you. You know?
Oh, God.
It was very different, obviously, for your brothers and your family. Okay, well, I guess that's that kind of paints a big picture of like the way your upbringing was in terms of like the whole transition between Ghana and Australia. So now, Miss Sahara, like you come from your journey growing up in Ghana. With your family, you come all the way to Australia. You transition, slowly but surely. Obviously, it took a bit of time. I'm not sure that like everybody's conditioned yet to Australia, but it's obviously much better than what it was when you first got here.
Yeah.
So, where did Miss Sahara come from? Like, obviously, like in terms of how was it presented to you? And I want to give a big shout out to Miss Sahara. Not Miss Sahara, like the actual Sahara pageant. And please correct me, the person that does operate it, her name is
Anya, you.
Anya.
Anya, you.
Anya, you. I want to give a big shout out to her because she's doing so much for the African community
Absolutely.
in terms of the women and just giving them a platform to be able to talk about things, and at the same time too apply it's competition, and she's just doing a lot of things for the community. So big shout out to her. So how did this happen for you?
Now, I had just recently started living by myself during that period.
Okay.
And I think it was in 2020. So I was just coming back from the gym from Parramatta, and then some stranger just grabbed my hand and stopped me in the middle of the road. And I was like, stranger danger.
Yeah, straight. I'm like, what the hell?
And so I feel like I always tell the story, but yeah. So I was like, can you let go of my hand? This is really awkward, and this is very uncomfortable. I do not know you. Please let go of me. And she was like, no, like, have you heard of Miss Sahara? Like, you can be in a pageant. You're very beautiful. I'm like, okay, can you let go of my hand now?
You would say she was still holding on to you and all that time.
Literally, it was more like, I'm trying to pull away. And she's like, coming more forward.
Oh God,
and
that's
so I was like,
hilarious.
she's like, you know what? Take my card. I can see I'm comfortable. Like here, take my card. You can search me up. I'm not a weed person. Search me up, look me up, and what I'm about. But it is about Miss Sahara, a pageant, and I would love to see you join it. So first of all, I was very curious about a person who can do that.
Yeah.
You can't just go around grabbing people's hands.
People and like, man, that takes a lot of confidence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was very curious about it.
But then again, she saw something in you the same way the teachers. So
Exactly.
continuing on, yeah.
Exactly. So it was like, okay, cool. So I researched her. I was like, oh, okay. I like what she's about. I like what she's promoting. I love her. She's literally a representation that I didn't get to see, especially in a professional setting. And also not just in a professional setting, like just an African woman just being out there, being promoted by the general public. And it was just like really amazing. So I was like, okay, I can get with that. So I contacted her, and basically we did a few like literally it was like, it became a mentorship with her before I officially said yes to Miss Sahara. So she got to know me. She got to know what I'm about, what my passions are, like what I want to do with my life. And I kind of had a few of the answers, and sometimes I didn't necessarily have the answers. And she would basically like coach me through those things and give me perspectives. And so because of that, I was like, I kind of like, it was more like a buy-in to her belief and her vision.
Yeah.
And so it made Miss Sahara easy to do, and also fall in love with the idea of it and the passion and the mission behind it.
And there was a purpose, yeah.
Exactly.
There was a purpose to the whole competition,
Exactly.
not just you look good or whatever.
No.
It was deeper than that. Yeah.
Exactly. And like even when I went to America, even when I went to America to do the pageant, it said more than a pageant. But my experience with Miss Sahara was more than a pageant. It was leadership, mentorship, making sure that I actually have something to be passionate about, something I'm going to be applying and pushing out to my community, to help my community. But in the state, it felt like I'm just here to be a face.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
And so it's like, when I say, like, I feel very passionate about Miss Sahara now, and I have so much value and like respect for it, for what it's doing, especially in Australia, and the person behind it. And so there's a buy-in then. That's how Miss Sahara came. So
no, definitely. I can feel the passion behind, like, obviously when you talk about it, because it means something to you. It's not just, and I think the reason that it sat so well with you is because you were always talking about, like, your leadership and like applying those things. And this was almost like a connection with that had the same values as like you
Exactly.
yourself, like the way you carry yourself. So it was just like it was a no-brainer. Like I think after you had I think it would have made sense that you guys came together. Now that's awesome. So because I did like with the whole Miss Sahara thing, I came across it just on TV. Like I remember one day I was just like watching TV, and I think there was I think last year, I think it was last year. There was an interview on ABC, and and then from there I was like, oh, I've never heard of this before, and then it's just amazing to see like African community doing something, and it's positive, and it's really it's helping the community, which I found to be very it was awesome,
Yeah.
So so obviously you've done that, and then the competition. What was the process in the competition? Because obviously you are the currently right now you don't brag or anything, but you're currently holding the crown, yeah?
Yes,
That's
I am.
awesome. So what was the process like for, what I know that you obviously, she grabbed your hand, you sat, you talked, you guys sorted it all out, then eventually you did the thing. But what was the process like up until the actual day where the competition was? Like, was it gym? Like what is it that you had to do?
So throughout the process was since it was in 2020.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to happen in 2020, but then COVID happened, so it had to be postponed and postponed and
Oh,
postponed.
was that during COVID? Okay, yeah, so okay.
And so during the postponement, Anya made sure that she kept the girls occupied with doing a lot of things. And I feel like that's where the idea of lead beyond education came from.
Yeah.
The fact that she wanted the girls to be actually very purposeful, very more impactful. So what came with it is that, I remember she asked us to do various workshop sessions. And that's how I actually fell into the workshop stuff.
Oh, okay.
So she's like, do a workshop session. And she gave us topics to choose from. And we worked with the other girls on those topics. And I remember my topic was womanhood and sexuality. And so I did that. And honestly, it was online. And I realized I feel like I really hate online sessions because
I know Zoom. Oh yeah.
I'm tired of it.
I'm tired of Zoom too. Yeah, man.
No, I love in-person things. Yeah. And so we did a lot of leadership stuff leading up to it. And there was this powerful woman that Miss Sahara introduced us to, Ma Juliana Nkrumah. I don't know if you know her. She's an AM in Canberra. So she's basically like, she's running the tracks all over the government.
Oh, wow. Okay,
so she's doing great things. And she's also Anya's mentor. These are the women I became introduced to. And these are the leadership I was looking up to. Beautiful. A woman who's starting her own business. A woman who's actually doing things and actually in her community. Actually sitting in rooms where no African woman is sitting in. And these were the leadership expectations. So the leadership we got from them throughout the 2 years leading up to the pageant in 2022, which made it so much brilliant and more worthwhile. So during that period, we also did like a lot of team building things with the girls, so we can build much more relationship. I think though it was mostly to keep us occupied and still interested, it did bring a positive impact to the fact that we developed and grew as the pageant was growing as well. Because now Miss Sahara is not just Miss Sahara anymore. It's part of a foundation called the Lead Beyond Education, which is about empowerment, education, and also leadership for women, African women. And it's about a foundation that's pushing out and actually it's like a social enterprise basically. It's like a physical foundation now. So we can get donations and everything. So it has grown a lot and we have grown with it as well. And so Miss Sahara is honestly, I can't. There's never enough words to describe it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I can completely tell as I mentioned, the passion behind it. But so obviously during COVID, but then was it like the actual build up to the actual big day? Was there like besides workshops? Was there like what was it like? Did you guys have like? Because I've seen there's days where you guys all went out together and ate together, so it's like you guys also became kind of family in a way.
Basically, it's like even after Miss Sahara, regardless if you won or not, you still have contact with Anya. And Anya is your network to anybody and everybody. And so it's like we all became family in the sense that we are also our go-to for different things. Miss Sahara, so the idea of Miss Sahara for Anya is also the fact that it's a network of professional African women.
That's
women in finance, women in tailor, women in science, women in a connection of women.
And she's a boss herself too.
Exactly, entrepreneurs and stuff like that. So it was that connection that she was wanted to build. So over through the years, like even though it was, like I said, it was to keep us engaged, it did build in us a friendship, family, and also sisterhood at this point. And so I'm grateful for COVID for that.
Yeah, that's good. And then there's a lot of things that came out of COVID. Like I mean, God bless the people that you were impacted badly, but in terms of like people understanding who they are and who they're able to connect with and knowing who your close friends are and things like that.
Yeah.
All that transpired from
COVID,
from COVID, from that experience. So yeah, so shout out to Miss Sahara, obviously, like for everything they're doing. You talked about like empowering women and just giving them an opportunity to be able to be like leaders and bosses, And I think that's really amazing, and that's what we need in the African community. We need a platform like that, especially for women, because women are, we have to keep it real. They're the ones that they've laid the foundation for the world. They're the ones that are going to continue. They deserve more, more exposure and opportunities, and equal. Pay, and there's so many things that they talk about in the media that I feel like, but I'm glad that somebody's out there that's doing the work, and that's amazing. Now, transitioning into financial literacy, because you also are a big advocate of financial literacy and how it helps the youth.
Yeah.
Because and what's very inspiring is because when I saw that on your profile the first time, I felt like there's a connection there, because I love people that understand how important financial literacy is, especially within the African community, and especially some of the tools that we're going to need, especially for the younger kids, so they don't make mistakes. So when they get older, they can understand how to navigate through life, because financial skills is one of the biggest skills that you need. It's very important. It's very crucial. It can be the difference between whether or not you succeed when you're younger or not succeed when you're younger. It could be the big difference between whether you succeed at a later stage of your life based on what you learn as a young child, or So, firstly, what got you into financial literacy, like in terms of like educating the youth and all that? What inspired you to do that?
Honestly, that is from personal experience.
Oh, beautiful.
And I
So
shared
talk
that.
to us about it. Yeah, please.
That story is definitely on my profile for forever.
Okay. Now, please tell us about it, because your personal experiences is what's gonna, I hope you can talk about it, but that might change somebody else's life. So yeah.
So I also am a big believer of purpose, like you are, and so I feel that this is my purpose. And honestly, I cannot think of myself doing anything else besides this. And so basically, growing up in Ghana, I went to a private school. I was one of those kids who could afford to go to those schools.
Yeah.
But the thing was that even though I was able to afford to go to those schools, there were times when my school fees were not paid at all. Meaning that my teachers will actually come to class and pen pick me out of class. Like, your writer hasn't paid school fees, so you have to sit out of the classroom or go around walking around the entire school picking up the garbage from the school building because you haven't paid school fees. And that happened quite frequently. And so, honestly, I wouldn't say that. I can't say my early childhood was I have a few misses.
Yeah.
But it's come.
Yeah, it's come, but it set you up, It set you up to think.
I have the one that I need.
Yeah, you got. That's fair enough.
But and so, even though those experiences happened, there was humiliation around that, because that private school was from it was like an international school as well. So I had a lot of kids who were from overseas coming from that school. So these kids were rich kids, and I was just happened to be the child that was never paid school fees. And so there was that humiliation. At first, I didn't like it. I hated it. But then as I grew up, there was an understanding that came with it. It's like, as much as I blame my mom because of like anger, because I was so embarrassed about it, it was more like, she doesn't know any better though. She doesn't know how to budget. She doesn't know how to manage money. And also, a lot of people, like, I don't want to say broke person mindset, but when you never have enough, when you have it, you basically spend it. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. Yeah.
It's like, you never have it when you never have money, but when you finally have money, you just want to do anything that you always wanted to do with it. Exactly. And that money just goes, and you're back to square one. Yeah. And that was how money was being operated in my family. With my mom, it was always like that cycle over again. And even though growing up, that affected us not just in school, in terms of school fees, even came back to the home. Like, it was like, sometimes there was no food in the house, because the money has been like going through that cycle over again and again. And it's like, she doesn't know better. And it came to that part, it's like, I want to teach her. I want to learn so I can teach her to do better with it. And if she can do better, that would have changed our circumstances so many times. That could have saved us so many times from the things we had to go through. And even save for herself as well. As much as she wants all those things she had, there was also something called delayed gratification that she could have practiced with learning about financial literacy, having that literacy skills. That would have allowed her to be able to afford the things that she really, really wanted at the very end of the day, and also set her up in the future. But she just didn't know any better. She didn't have the resources or the education for it. And so that's why I came to the point where financial literacy became a passion and a purpose. And even fighting to do finance was also even like something that I was actually even like counted for, because my parents were like, no, African child, doctor, lawyer. And I was like,
Yeah, I get that's I get what you're saying. It's not where your heart is sitting. Yeah,
exactly. And so it never felt right. And to the point where I actually had to fight for it. And it felt right. And it felt like everything I was doing based on that developed up to where I am. Like when I tell you I didn't plan for this, I did not plan for this. Is the fact that my purpose came from the pain that and the experience from the childhood that I have is drawing towards a purpose that has been drawn out for me. I'm religious, so by God, by God, and it just everything just working. It just works that way to the point where like even right now where I am right now in space in terms of mentally and financially, it's like I want to build something else besides working, and I cannot think of anything else besides financial literacy because even if I do, I have a lot of talents. I can do a lot of things. However, just because I don't have there's no purpose attached to it, I won't be able to commit to it as much as I've committed to this. Because this is not just anything is my life. I have lived in it. I'm living in it. I've gone through stages of where I have been a child without money. I've been a child with money. I've been a child. I have been an independent woman, growing my own income, paying my own bills, all that stuff. I'm going to a third phase where I'm living with my brother, doing all those shared things, experiences with the person. So it's like I'm going through these things, but like a lot of people don't have that. I'm learning forefront where everybody's experiencing without having that knowledge financial knowledge. But because I have somewhat financial knowledge, it makes it easier to go through these things in life.
Exactly.
However, a lot of people have that. And so when I talk to somebody who's in the same, I guess, like physical space as me and they're struggling, I'm like, but I'm not struggling as much. I'm not struggling as much. And again, it's because I have this financial knowledge. I know how to use my money. And so I'm never in a case where I'm always lacking or have to call on people. There's always something there to back me up. But not a lot of people have that. And so that's why financial literacy came up, and I got a platform to be able to talk about it and also be able to teach and share with people. For it, I started from church. My uncle, I feel like he's my biggest encourager. He was actually the person who actually put me out there, like, all right, I can talk about finance. She's in finance, so put her out there. And then so he will do a session on finance, and he will like, Ryder will do something on budgeting and investing, and then that's how it started. And so from there, it's like that is how the trajectory has been. So financial literacy is very important, and I'm realizing now that even though I feel like I'm advocating for the youth to know about financial literacy, our moms and dad need it. They need it, and they still don't have it. As much as they've lived here for so long, they still have the Ghanaian mindset about money. And so
African mindset.
Exactly. And so just recently I went to the Ghana 66 event. I was invited to it, and I didn't realize that as much as they need it and they need it, we also always say that, but like they're already like stuck in their ways, they won't want to learn any new ways. But it's like you have to give them the opportunity to decide if they want to or not. And so that's something that I have to actually trying to work towards, to be able to provide my services just as much as I'm providing for the youth, to also to give to them. And so they can learn, even though they can start now building. Because like I look at my mom, and right now financially she's not set. When I mean financially not set, as in when we came to Australia, she didn't have the qualification to even start working and do all those working stuff. She doesn't have superannuation. She doesn't have any of that stuff for retirement. And so thinking about it is like, how many of those Ghanaian uncles and dads that we all know and hang around have superannuation, actually know they have superannuation,
know how to use it,
exactly, and is it being used for them for their purposes? And so there's stuff like that. It's like we need to have these conversations. We need to let people know. We need to have people know and learn about literacy in finance. And so that's where it comes from.
Man, that is honestly, that is the most touching. And I, you know what, like, because my purpose also comes from my mum too. That's why it's touching to me, because like it's a lot of that comes from the same thing that I experienced with, like, because my mum always had, and I talk about this a lot on the platform. My mum always had the willingness to you know, she didn't have all the financial literacy skills, but she kind of knew where she wanted to go to, where she wanted to head towards. Like she always knew that she wanted to own properties. She always wanted to, like she knew that she wanted to set her kids up.
Yeah.
Like she always knew, but I think she just didn't have the tools, and the people around her didn't either. So it kind of set her up to fail, because you know, if she had had the right people around her, she probably wouldn't be in half of the position that she has been in the past. Like right now, it's okay. It could have been 50 times better.
Yeah.
But at the same time, too, it's just, that's why it touches me when you talked about your mum. Like even for me, too, I'm like, man, that really shifted like the way I was just thinking at that time. So that's really amazing story. And honestly, I want to say thank you, because that's like, because it's good that you have that. What I'm saying, it's good that you have that awareness, like, you know, and you're being humble about it, because you've gone through and you've lived that experience.
Yeah.
So now, and you found your purpose, and this is what this platform is all about, Black Wealth Connect. It's about people coming on here, expressing their purpose, and hopefully something like this can change somebody else's life. You know, that's what it's all about, giving back. No, that's really inspiring. So through that, you've gone ahead and you've created like this. You've understood financial literacy. You know your purpose. You know where it comes from. So where you're at now in terms of like work wise. So what are some of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis for your work, in terms, because it's all connected to financial literacy and what you do. So so if you don't mind just talking about some of the things like superannuation and how some of those things are quite important for people to understand.
Whereas superannuation, everybody has superannuation. There's level up from superannuation, which is called self-managed superannuation. Is where you earn your own superannuation, and you do whatever you want your money, whatever you want your money to do for it. You do it. However, there's so much more implications that comes with it. You have to be very, like, prudent with everything, because any little thing can like really stuff you up, and it can really put you in a heap of mess, and you can't even earn a superannuation anymore. And so that's what we work with. So we have a lot of clients who have self-managed superannuation funds, and we are basically the people who manage that for them, so that they don't get into those financial like implications.
Yeah.
We do all that stuff for them.
Okay.
And we also help them set up trusts, corporations, corporate beneficiaries for their trust and stuff, to help them manage their overall general wealth entirely. We also look at their balance sheets, and we do their balance sheets as well. And we also provide them with investment opportunities in infrastructure, in construction, in Westfield. We have a lot of clients who are invested in Westfield. So all of these major projects around like the city, we have clients investing in those things. So private equity, we do a lot of that as well. And we have your general investment in like stocks, property and stuff like that.
Awesome. So in terms of that, like, you know, because all the tools that you're learning right now in your work, you know, what are some of the things that you feel like, going back to like the African community, that people can apply, like in terms of like just financial literacy? Like, I mean, so what are some of the things that people can put in steps to like actually like start being more aware of like financial literacy and things like that, based on your experience in your life and the tools that you know now?
There's so much, and if I can just do a brain spill, I will.
Yeah, there'll be a lot. Oh, okay.
Exactly.
You know what? Maybe even just two examples of like stuff that you feel like people can apply
now.
Especially within the African community that are not fully aware of financial literacy. Yeah.
So I'll say for any youth person.
Yeah, any youth. Okay, let's talk to the youth. Let's talk to the youth first.
Superannuation. Now, even it's not just for youth either. Yeah. Like our parents as well. Superannuation, because like. Right now, superannuation taxes you 15%. And whenever you put money in, it just taxes at 15%. Now, that means that even though, say for instance, you're earning 36K, your taxation amount is like 19%. Now, 19%, 15%. Where would you want to put your money? Where are you getting tax less? Superannuation, rather than it being to you directly. So that's what you want to do. Not just that, also, if you're earning below, I think it was 50K annually, when you personally put extra money into your super, the government pays you an additional money. They pay into your superannuation for you for contributing to your own retirement.
Is that just a self-managed super fund? Or
No,
is that
this is just
in
general
super
fund.
Okay.
The government will pay you to pay yourself for your retirement.
Yeah.
So use that. Like, there's so many options with superannuation that's like, I was doing that, but I didn't understand it or know what was coming from what I was doing. Even though I invested in my super, because I was like, oh, super, it's my money, so I'm just going to put more money because it's being invested for me anyways. But then I realized when I put money in, the government will put money in it for me. Co-contribution, that's what it's called. The government co-contribution. Yeah. So invest in your super. It's a form of investment into yourself for your future.
Would you also say on that, like obviously super, look, I mean, there's grey areas around super in my personal opinion, because I feel like, it is important to have super. This is just from my perspective. It is very important to have super. At the same time, too, you got to set yourself up in other ways to retire.
Oh, for sure.
So, and we talk about property, we talk about all these things, because if you can gain assets and and other ways, whether there's so many ways, right? But I could just give an example about like just super, because if you just rely on your super, sometimes you might not have enough in order for you to be able to fully retire. Like some people only retire with like in super probably like 200,000, but if you retire, let's say 7 years old or whatever it is, you might live up until God knows 90, and that $200,000 won't be able to sustain. Even though you're getting pension, it's not that much. But do you recommend that people also look at other strategies and other ways for them to also help them with their retirement? So super could be a bonus, but then also invest in property assets and things like that. What's your perspective on that?
So as much as I will say yes to that, it's also come back to financial literacy.
It comes back to financial literacy.
If you don't know
where to invest and what to do, you
absolutely be scammed out of your money. And that is like, it's so common that you always hear people, I invested into this, my money, I lost my money. A lot of people don't invest because they have this idea, if I put my money in it, I'm going to lose my money. Because they don't have the financial literacy about it. That's why it's like, I can't say like, go invest.
Of course.
You can't do that because somebody will do like crypto, for instance. A lot of people got burnt from crypto. That's a form of investing. And so that's why I say super is safe for somebody who doesn't know anything about about investing. Just put your money, the government, like your superannuation company is doing investing for you already. Just give them more money to do that for you on your behalf. And imagine if you're only putting like, say, like 250 a month. 250 a month for, like, say for instance, you just started work. If you work for 47 years, calculate that. That's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
That will set you up. And now we're not even counting for like return on investment. Just that money alone for 47 years, that's a lot to set you up.
Correct. And then when you have the opportunity to actually get access to it, then you should be.
Exactly.
And that also comes down to financial literacy, because once you have access to it, now what do you do with that money, you know? So all of it is financial literacy from the beginning to the end. That's why it's very important,
So, like, that's why I was like, when I hear a lot of people, like, when crypto craze came in, it's like, I'm investing. I'll hear people who is like, investing. I'm like, but do you understand what you're investing your money into? Do you know what that means to your money? What is work? You hear a lot of principle, let your money work for you. I love that. I love that idea. However, you can't tell somebody who knows nothing about it to do that because it won't work for them.
That makes sense. No, definitely. Now that's awesome. Because I think it all comes down to, it's always financial literacy, and we've expressed that multiple times, but that's really what it comes down to. So people within our community or our space that want the tools and try and understand, what it is that they can do with their money. So you recommend, obviously, like in terms of the, super and things like that. Also, because it's just, there's so many, within our community too, there's so many people that own properties and have equity, and like over the years, they don't even realize that they have $500,000, $600,000 worth of equity, because they don't know how
net worth.
All that stuff. Like they don't really fully understand how they can use that money, and that they've been paying off their mortgage for nearly 20 years, and their property is worth God knows how much, and they got so much equity. But it also comes down back to financial literacy. But the thing is, what I want to talk to is, because we have been talking to the youth, but I really want you to kind of express, like, what is it right now that you feel like are the steps for, especially people that are in high school, that are fresh into high school, that are that are young, that are trying to figure out what it is that they want to do in their lives. What can they start doing in terms of, because some of them might not be able to apply super yet because they haven't even started working, but what are some of the stuff that they can start implementing at a young age to get into the habit to know how to work with money and start start to know the tools of financial literacy?
Stewardship. Now, when I say stewardship, I mean money management.
Yeah.
Learning about money management, because when you gather information, you learn information about money. When you have money isn't, you detach, like money doesn't become subjective, it becomes objective. You don't apply emotions to your money when the money is not in your hands or when it's out of your hands. And so when I say stewardship, it means learn about budgeting. Learn about whatever budgeting system works for you. Now, there's so many out there, and a lot of people will tell you, no, that doesn't work for me. Well, then create your own.
You create your own.
Look at these templates that are all over on the internet and make sure you create one that fits you and suits you, and basically allocate your money, because that's how I started. I remember when I was getting like $300 from Woolies, I was like, okay, I'm going to put this money here, put that money there, put that money here, put that money here. You choose where your money goes to. Now, there's something called pay yourself first. Now, when you choose where your money goes to, the first place it should go to is yourself. Investing into yourself. Because you're important. You have to show that you're important by investing into yourself too, as other people, as the entire world would invest into you. You should do the same thing to you. That's another form of self-love. You do that. Invest in yourself first. After that, then you can think about your expenses. Now, if you're a young child and you really don't have a lot of expenses, that's even perfect. You have more to invest into yourself. Now, another thing is, if your parents don't have financial literacy skills.
Yeah, that's one thing. That's awesome you say that,
Yeah, if your parents don't have financial literacy skills, that's okay. You can go through it with them. And not a lot of parents will be happy to go through that phase with you, because a lot of parents want to feel like they know what they're doing.
They know everything.
But
yeah, they're the one, they're the power. When they really don't. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
We don't. And that is okay. So look for mentors. Look for mentors. Look for people who actually know how to use money and how you want to learn, like, just want to know more about money.
Yeah.
It's like, I know, like, it sounds very like superficial, know more about money, but money is a topic you need to learn.
You need to learn 100%.
It's not like something that you should be feeling some sort of way, like a braggish sort of way about it. Money is like any other thing in your life, like how you learn to go to the bathroom. Money should be the same thing.
The same thing. Yeah.
Learn about money. If you don't know about it, learn, because there's so much resources. Everybody's pulling out there, because a lot of people also realize that too late.
They realize too late in their life.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want to be in that space, especially with the Gen Zs. Like, these kids are like different. And so they have so much potential that a lot of us don't have. And they have so much information available to them that we didn't have.
Correct.
And so, honestly, utilize those opportunities to learn about money. When you learn about money, how to get your money right, how to choose where you want your money to go to, you decide where your money goes to. Investing becomes another form. It becomes so easy to do.
Yes, it becomes just second nature.
Exactly.
Second nature,
like, start reading books, like investing books, financial literacy books, like Business of the 21st Century. Like, honestly, I read that book like a while ago, and I'm rereading that book because I'm a place where I'm like, I want to build something for myself. I need something else to make more for myself. Yes, I'm in the, like, there's a 4 quadrants in the ESBI. I want to be on the right side. So I'm trying to, like, right now I'm on the S. I want on the E side. I want to move to the B and I
Robert
side.
Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's an excellent book too. Yeah.
And I came across all of this through professional development, personal development, and it came through mentorship. I was introduced to that level of, like, financial literacy because of mentors that pushed me into those states, into those ideas, like open my eyes to this world. You know what I mean? So find people who know money and are willing to teach you or give you the resources to. Find resources yourself on Instagram, Facebook, wherever. Maybe not Instagram.
Yeah,
not Instagram.
Stay away from Instagram.
Yes.
Yeah.
YouTube.
No, don't stay away from Instagram. But there are stuff to learn on Instagram, but obviously you can get sucked in very easily. Yeah.
But Instagram, I feel like, is for people who've already made it and just making it sound like it's easy to do. No, it's not easy.
It's not easy. No. Definitely not easy.
You don't jump from $1 to $100. No, it doesn't work like that.
But one thing that you said is also very important too. Is like, especially for the youth. Like, how important do you think it is to surround yourself with the right people? because that is something that is very. I love how you talked about, like, find a mentor, find somebody that you inspire to be like, because this is where you find your purpose.
Yeah.
If you're somebody that doesn't know their purpose and you look up to somebody that is doing something, eventually you will find your purpose. Exactly. So how important do you think it is, especially for the younger kids, and not even just the younger kids, everyone, to surround themselves with the right people?
Honestly, it's like the right people will take you the furthest. The wrong people will bring you back the furthest.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good. Yeah, in a reverse. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, having the right people, and sometimes it's okay. I feel like our generation is so scared to be alone and going through the tough by themselves, to the point where, like, when they don't have people is a problem, and when these people are not always good people, that's the problem. Sometimes it's better to have no people than to have bad people just for people's sake.
Just for people's sake, yeah. Just for the sake of saying that you have friends, but they might not be the right people.
Exactly. So it's so important about the people you surround yourself with, because they decide your future. I once heard that the 5 people that you associate yourself with, you will fall in between how much they're earning. You will fall in between how much entirely, on average, they're earning, how their life is like. So if you have a friend who's doing drugs, like 4 out of your friends is doing drugs, guess what?
Yeah, you're gonna end up, unless you happen to be the lucky person. But
Even
there's
then,
a higher chance.
Then. So it's like the 5 people closest to you, wherever they are at in life, you are almost right in the middle there. So choose the life you want, know the life you want, and find those people who are there, so that you can fall right in the middle of there. Because if there's a millionaire, 5 millionaires, you're right in the middle.
Eventually you should be destined to be a millionaire.
Exactly. It's simple, easy.
100%.
And so that's how it should be. So it's like, it's so important. Like, even choosing partners and people in your life, like
100%.
Literally, like, filter through people. Don't just have good people. Don't just have people. Like, I'll say, even don't just have good people around you. Good people aren't always the best for you too. Because sometimes good people are not, how do I even say this to make sense? Like, the best people for you are not just good.
Correct. Yeah. They got to add value in your life.
Yeah.
You got to find people with purpose and that have value.
They invest in you, you invest in them. It's like, you guys are
growing together.
Exactly.
100%.
But even if they're just good people, like, you can, like, honestly, I have friends where, like, I don't talk for 6 months. And then I go back, it's like still the same.
It's still exactly the same. They're the best friendships.
Exactly. But then we come back different people. You have to have friends who are comfortable to see that they come back to you. When you come back to them 6 months later, you have a level of growth that they can match.
100%.
You can't come back to a friend and you're 6 months like ahead and they're still stuck. There's going to be a problem, because there's always going to be, like, they're not matching the same balance as you. And though they're good people who want to stay in contact, doesn't necessarily mean that they're right.
Correct. No, I'm a very firm believer. Everything that you said, I believe 100%. Like, it's very important to have the right people around you, and also it's about leveling up. Like, watching people. You want to see people around you. If you're trying to elevate, you also want to see people around you also trying to elevate. You guys might not elevate at the same pace, but the determination has to be there. And you can, if that
in itself is motivation enough to push you.
It's enough to push you.
It's like, honestly, like, I'm very competitive with myself, and so when the people around me are not competitive, I feel like
I think it's
the energy is like
the energies. You always wanna thrive and achieve.
Exactly, and not a lot of people. When the people around you don't have that in them, they never understand you, and that can bring so much conflict as well. So it's like, it's okay. They're good people, but you have to realize that good people are not your people.
Correct. And also having the right mindset. The mindset is important too, It's not just about the people, but just also the mindset. But I think it all comes down to, and I think we what I've established, obviously, from our conversation, like, a lot of it has to do with just purpose. Like, a lot of the conversations that I'm finding recently, like, even if I have with my friends, or just on Black Wealth Connect, or just in general, is like, you can always tell the difference between somebody that knows their purpose. It's like, you can feel it. Like, even with me and you, I hear, like, I can really gauge that you're on this earth and you know what you're destined to do and what you want to achieve, and nothing's gonna stop you. And I feel like these are the type of people that I wouldn't be surprised one day if I'm like watching the TV and I saw Ryder like in like the sea. No, I'm honestly like these are the type. Like, there's certain people you can look at and be like, look, I didn't expect any less from these people, you know.
Yeah.
And then there's people like that. For example, like if I ever saw that you were like in a position where like one day like I saw you down or something, like I would be more surprised. Like why you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's certain individuals that you see, but that's that's amazing. So obviously moving forward, like in terms of like everything that you've been able to achieve and all the stuff that you're doing now, and you know your purpose is financial literacy and helping the youth. Like what are some other things that you're involved in like at the moment? Like you know, especially when you talk about like encouraging the youth to be able to know financial literacy. What are things that you're doing outside of your everyday life to kind of contribute to that?
So what I do is I do get the opportunity to run workshops on financial literacy, on budgeting, like superannuation. I get to do all those stuff. So I do have a few like things lined up in terms of workshops coming up. I am looking to do some online courses as well, to provide online courses as well in the future. But then I need to utilize my social media properly to do that.
Okay. That's fair enough.
to
That's
do
fair
that.
enough,
But
yeah.
also I'm also trying to leverage on the people that actually attend my workshops as well, to be able to build that traction, to give more out. And also I'm going to be working with you on the financial summit that's coming up as well. I'm very
Can't
excited
wait
for that
yeah,
one.
can't wait.
And yeah, I think that's mostly it. But I am looking for. I had a few church members actually call me for financial literacy after the Ghanaian 66 Independence Day, and it's like I was like, wow. So that's what I'm saying. Like, uncles and dads actually want to learn because
this
they
stuff,
know
yeah.
it's too late now.
Yeah,
then
yeah,
they still
yeah.
want something.
They still want something, yeah.
So I'm looking to actually have the capacity to be able to provide programs for them as well and workshops for them as well.
Beautiful.
So yeah.
Well, I think once the summit comes out, the official flyer, and I'm pretty sure that it will be amazing because everybody's able to come down and you run a workshop, and I really look forward to it. Like honestly, it's been one of my biggest goals to have a space where everybody can come together and really like learn these stuff.
Yeah.
Like and the purpose of it is coming from a very deep place for me because I've also gone through issues when it comes to finance. I didn't know things, so I feel like that environment hopefully is going to create, you know, something amazing for everybody to learn and have a good experience that day. So thank you again for also being a part of it. You know, we're on
Thank
the
you for
podcast,
having
but
me.
like, yeah, that's amazing. So look, we'll start to wrap up this podcast, and but like I said, like you're very inspiring. I just want to say keep going with all the stuff that you're doing because I feel like, you know, everything that you said from being a leader and people seeing leadership in you, and then Miss Sahara, like, you know, grabbing your arm down the street, like this doesn't just, I know it's crazy, but this just doesn't happen to everyone, you know. So if we're people of faith, and I believe that, you know, like there was a purpose there for all this stuff to happen to you.
Exactly.
And be selected for you to be that person. So or you know, you almost the chosen one. So thank you so much, Ryder. There, you're the chosen one. You are the chosen one. You just have you have to run with it. You know, your name is Ryder for a reason.
I'm riding
so
with
you gotta ride with it. So, any last words to wrap up? Like any words of wisdom or anything that you know you can encourage the youth? I know we've talked about so many things about financial literacy and what the youth can gain, but is there any final words from you? I'll leave it to you to say what you have to say.
Honestly,
Shout your Instagram, shout everything that you need to do. The camera is on you, full effect.
well, I want to shout out to Anya, the founder of Miss Sahara, for giving me the platform that I have at the moment. And also, one final thing I'll tell the youth will be like, honestly, start now. There's no day or time to start other than for financial literacy. Start learning about money. You can never learn enough about money because it's never going to stop. There's always going to be new things about money that's coming out there. Always learn about money, find ways, and I'll hope to use my platform to do that. So please keep an eye out on my platforms, my Instagram particularly, and Facebook. So yeah, that'll be it.
So what's your, I know I said I was giving you the last words, but just what's your Instagram for anybody that's looking?
So is Ryder Antwi, so Ryder as in Ryder.
Yeah, as in Ryder, R-I-D-E-R.
Yeah, and my last name Antwi, and I know I should probably change my profile picture since I was like 18 years old. It's a cartoon of myself. I hope.
Oh, you're too funny. But I just want to say thank you again for being on Black Wealth Connect. It was an amazing episode, and like there's a lot to learn from this, and I can't wait, especially for the youth, for people to really like listen to the episode, and you hit so many points that also touch me, and I feel like it's going to touch anybody that watches this episode. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You.